Hi everyone. Um, Today is a special day for me because according to the tradition of my people, Estonians or old Estonians who called themselves maarahvas or people of the land. Mm. According to their way of thinking, today is the new year because mm, well um, around the winter equinox about from 21st to 24th of December, um, my ancestors said that the sun is sitting in the nest, meaning that there are days that are exactly the same length. They are about like 3 or 4 days. And after that, the first day, which is a little bit longer than the previous one, they called the day of the new year because the sun was reborn. And this day is the 25th of December every year. And so, um, and so I think my people, they might have been living in Estonia like maybe 10,000 years. Because 10,224 years ago, everything that was Estonia, that is Estonia now, it was a big lake, an ice age lake or something like this. And there was no land. But 10,224 years ago from now, there was an event when somewhere around Sweden, which was under a great ice, something happened with the ice. It broke, and all of this water from Estonia, it went out to the ocean, and the land was born. And sometime after that, it was possible for people to come live in Estonia and become Estonians and start living their lives and telling stories. Well, um, and according to the tradition and way of life of my people, the best used storytelling time was the winter, when around Estonia the nights are very long and very dark. There is very few light during the day, and like sometimes starting from the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock or something, it gets dark, and you just can't do nothing outside because, well, they didn't have lamps or anything, so they were supposed to use the daylight, and it was also very cold all the time. And so they stayed inside and spent their time in the inside the house. And the time, especially storytelling time, was around Christmas, which we call Yule or Yuletide, Yuletime, uh, when everybody avoided doing any kind of work for like 4 or 5 days. They only did the absolutely necessary things, but nothing more. They spent all their time telling stories, singing old songs, and playing traditional games. And and often the stories they told to each other, the stories were about things they imagined and the things they experienced in their everyday life, like if they had some kind of weird experience which was like worth telling about, and they shared it. And when I come to think about it, then all those old stories, nowadays we talk about Harry Potter and Twilight and stuff like that, but all of the great and very popular storytellers of our time, they have gotten a lot of inspiration from old stories, like this one that I'm going to tell you now, that were not even less fantastic than all of the cool things you can find now. And so, the story I'm going to tell you, it was written down by folklore collectors. It was written down like 112 years ago. So the story must be a lot older, because it starts like in the old times, so we don't really know when it happened. Maybe it happened 200 years ago, maybe it happened 2000 years ago. We have no idea, but it has reached nowadays, today. And I think this Yule time, it's a great time to remember what happened before. So this story is a little part of how my ancestors, the Estonians, how they perceived the world around them and what they thought about it. So here goes the story. A long time ago, there was a man whose profession, the way of earning his living, he made shoes. He made bark shoes, because at that time everybody was wearing bark shoes. And he had a son, and as it often goes, the son was helping his father in his work a lot. So, to make bark shoes, you need bark, like willow bark, for example. Anyway, one day, the father and the son, they decided to go to the forest, to go deep in the forest to collect some bark. So they started going, and when they reached around the place they wanted to collect, then they went separate ways, because there is no point in collecting two men collecting bark from the same tree, for example, or something like this. Or so they split up, and they both spent their time working, and the night came. Became dark, and the father and the son, they tried to find each other again, but they didn't. They were so far away from each other, but they couldn't find each other. And so the boy was walking alone, and suddenly he heard some voices. It scared him a little, but well, he was a brave boy, and so he walked just toward the voices. And he found a fire in the forest, a little fire, and at the fireside there was a woman sitting, a woman with a horrible face, she was really, really ugly. She was nothing like, she was just like horrid, and she had a baby in her lap, and she was sitting at the fire and rocking the baby and singing to him or something, and well, and the boy bravely walked up to the woman and just sat down at the fire. Actually, he laid down because he wanted to get some warmth. It was quite cold. It wasn't winter, but it was still cold at the night time. And he knew very well that in the dark like this, he couldn't find his father anyway, so he decided to stay there. So some time passed, and the woman started to eat. She was eating smoked fish, and she offered the boy some fish too. The boy accepted the fish, but he wasn't so hungry at this moment, and so he just put the fish into his pocket and stayed lying by the fire, and soon he fell asleep. And through his sleeping, he still could hear the lady, the old woman, and the baby crying, and the woman talking to the baby and singing to the baby. And well, but when he woke up in the morning, he looked around and he couldn't find any trace of the fire. You know, if you make a fire, then there has to be like a fireplace left, but there wasn't any. And there was no fire, there was no fireplace, there was no trace of the woman nor the baby. And then that's when the boy realized that it wasn't a human woman, but it was a forest spirit who was sitting there with her child. And so the boy got up and started going, and soon he could find the right way, and went home. And the father was already there. So when the boy took off his coat, something fell from his pocket, and he remembered suddenly the fish that the woman had given to him. And he started looking for the fish, but he couldn't find it anymore. The only thing that he saw was on the floor was a little fir cone. So that was the fish. It wasn't a fish anyway, so that is the story. And I wish you all a really, really happy Yule. And until the next stories.